In a previous episode, we showed that switching from a traveling to an in-place cycle maintains step length but compresses stride length, shortening its swing path. This observation is sufficient for a simple trajectory. But let's imagine a more complex one. Drawing such a loop while walking is unlikely, but not impossible. Let's see what happens when we develop the cycle. The loop has disappeared. In other words, the path has not only stretched, we no longer recognize the original shape. This point is important to remember as we tackle today's topic. As with walking, the amplitude to be expected on the ground for an in-place run is the length of the foot's backward movement during its support phase. However, this length no longer has anything to do with the length of the step, which this time results from a jump between two supports. Since the foot's backward movement on the ground corresponds to the support duration, it does not take into account the duration of suspension. We can reconstruct the traveling step from the in-place run. Its length equals the constant distance between two supports multiplied by half the cycle's duration. Since this distance between two supports is nothing but speed, the length of the traveling cycle is equal to its duration multiplied by the speed in centimeters per frame. This unit, in centimeters per frame, gives the speed on paper which, knowing the scale ratio, could be converted into actual running speed, in meters per second or kilometers per hour. Let's look at the swing traveling path. Their long rolling shape evokes a soft mattress. When we move on to the in-place run, they take on a cushion-like shape that can be compared to the molar shape seen in the previous episode, a synthesis of two basic swing path models, one carrying the foot backwards and the other forwards. This shape is perfectly acceptable if we admit that, in animation, everything goes. However, it is not quite what real runners look like. By analyzing a run movement step by step, we can distinguish the following movements: support flexion, rear extension to propel the body forward, swinging flexion, and front extension to increase step length. Support flexion, propulsion, swinging flexion, front extension. These four movements form a model with two inflection points, suitable for a sprinter. The French call this shape a pull lane, after a medieval shoe it resembles. A long-distance runner would have slightly different proportions, with more emphasis on propulsion. Before running, the runner must warm up. They can do this by lifting their feet high behind them, in which case they draw a cycle path, or by lifting them high in front of them, drawing an Aladdin's lamp path. If they lift them high, both behind and in front, they draw a bean path. We recognize these trajectories from walking in slightly different proportions. We therefore find the basic patterns either alone or combined. None of these subtleties will prevent the animator from going against the natural tendency of a movement, if they so wish. Take, for example, this run, that of a certain Valentine searching for his beloved hidden in a wheat field to offer her his heart. Full of enthusiasm, Valentine can only draw a perfectly circular in-place path, at least if we consider the path of his feet relative to each other. In fact, if we consider the path of his feet relative to the ground, we discover a shape that is well known in medical circles. In other words, knowing how to combine a circular movement with a vertical bounce is more meaningful than dropping to one knee to declare one's love. Since this has nothing to do with our topic, we'll just invite the audience to move along instead of going around in circles in front of this video.